The chosen one. The storm raged inside you long before it ever touched the earth. You felt it in your dreams, in the restless turning of your nights, in the ache of something divine whispering your name through the silence. The world called it anxiety, coincidence, imagination, but deep within, you knew something sacred was calling you. Something ancient had marked you before you even learned how to breathe. You tried to ignore it. You tried to live like everyone else, quiet, predictable, unseen. Yet every time you ran from the voice, the universe rearranged itself to bring you back. Every closed door was not rejection. It was redirection. Because heaven was not interested in your comfort. It was preparing your courage. The voice came again. Rise. You froze. The air shifted. Shadows thickened around you. Yet light pressed from within your chest like fire trapped behind glass. You could not explain it, but you knew the time for running had ended. You were not born for silence. You were born for confrontation. This was the moment your spirit remembered its contract. You asked yourself, why me? Why would a divine mission choose a trembling heart, an unsteady soul? But destiny never selects the confident. It selects the obedient. And obedience often begins in fear. Every chosen one must learn that faith does not silence the storm. It teaches you how to walk through it without drowning. There were nights when you questioned if you were losing your mind. The dreams, the warnings, the unshakable sense that something unseen was watching you. But now you understand it wasn't madness. It was spiritual awareness. Every ripple in your peace was a signal from heaven that war had begun. You were not cursed. You were commissioned. People misunderstood you. They called you too emotional, too intense, too much. But that intensity was divine sensitivity. You were born with sight that others buried. You felt what they ignored, saw what they denied, and because of that, darkness recognized you before you recognized yourself. From birth, the war began not for your body, but for your belief. You carry a spiritual frequency that cannot be faked. It's why certain people are drawn to your light and others flee from it. Your energy unsettles what hides in the shadows. Even in silence, you disrupt the unseen. That is why the attacks intensified. Every delay, every betrayal, every sudden loss, it wasn't chaos, it was strategy. Hell studies chosen ones carefully. It sends patterns, not just pain. It sends confusion, not just conflict. Because if it can silence your clarity, it can delay your destiny. But listen closely, the presence of battle is not proof of weakness. It is evidence of purpose. The war found you because heaven found you first. You see, this is not a story of survival. It's a story of revelation. The divine does not test those it has not trusted. The fire you're standing in was never designed to consume you. It was crafted to crown you. Every tear you've shed was a baptism in disguise. Every heartbreak was a pruning. Every unanswered prayer was an invitation to see God not in rescue, but in revelation. And yet, your faith has fractured. You've wondered if the silence meant abandonment, if the stillness meant rejection. But it's in the stillness that God sharpens the sword. The silence is sacred. It's the forge of your authority. What feels like isolation is consecration. What feels like exile is initiation. Heaven hides you before it honors you. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. There will be moments when fear whispers louder than faith, when the memories of failure haunt you louder than the promises of destiny. In those moments, remember this: the demon that stands before you was assigned to you because heaven trusted your victory. Its presence confirms your potential, and the truth is, it fears you, not because of your strength, but because of your awakening. Every time you choose to believe instead of break, to pray instead of panic, the demon trembles. It knows that once you see yourself correctly, the war is already over. Because authority begins with awareness. You have been forged in hidden battles, tempered by unseen fires, shaped by invisible hands. And though you feel unworthy, though your hands still shake, heaven sees you as armed and ready. The voice returns, kill the demon that hunts your bloodline. It sounds terrifying. But what if that demon isn't what you thought? What if it's not a shadow outside you, but a memory inside you? A wound that never healed, a fear that never left, a belief that you were never enough. What if the battle has always been between the version of you that survived and the version of you that was chosen? To win, you must confront yourself. Your awakening will not come with applause. It will come in tears, in silence, in lonely nights when surrender feels like defeat. But every time you refuse to bow, every time you choose obedience over understanding, you rise in spiritual rank. This is what the darkness fears: the resilience of your soul. You were not sent here to merely endure. You were sent to transform. The pain you carry is proof that you were trusted with transformation, because those who carry light must first understand darkness. And so, chosen one, breathe. The weight you feel is not a curse. It's a calling. The storm inside you is not punishment. It's prophecy. You were never ordinary. You were marked. You were never lost. You were led. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. When you finally understand this, your fear becomes your altar. Your tears become your offering. And your voice becomes your weapon. So rise, chosen one. This is your awakening. And the war that came to destroy you will soon become the testimony that defines you. If you feel this truth, hit like and subscribe, because this story has just begun. The chosen one. You didn't stumble into this war. You were summoned. Before your first breath, before your name ever echoed across the earth, your spirit made an ancient agreement. Somewhere beyond time, in the silence before sound, you said yes. You said yes to the light, knowing it would demand everything. You said yes to the battle, knowing it would break you before it crowned you. You said yes to a mission that would test your faith in ways the flesh could never comprehend. You didn't just wake up one day in warfare. You woke up into remembrance. There was a time when you believed life was random, that pain was coincidence, that betrayal was just human nature. But chosen ones do not live in coincidence. They live in calling. Every wound had purpose. Every delay had design. Heaven orchestrated each loss to train your discernment, to make you see not with your eyes, but with your spirit. And yet, you ran. You tried to be normal. You tried to fit into the world that never fit you. But peace never lasted long, did it? The stillness always felt heavy. The silence always spoke louder, because your soul couldn't forget the contract. It kept calling you back. The rebellion, the numbness, the confusion, they were not proof of failure. They were evidence of resistance. Hell never fights the sleeping. It fights the awakening, and every time you tried to bury your purpose, heaven resurrected it through pain. The truth is, you never chose this war with your mind. Your mind wanted comfort, but your spirit wanted glory. And now, your body must catch up with your spirit's. Yes, that is why you feel torn. Because part of you still longs for normal, but the other part knows that normal is death to your destiny. The divine calling always splits you in two, before it makes you whole again. There is the part of you that wants to be safe, and there is the part that knows safety is not sacred. You were not built for comfort. You were built for confrontation. You ask, why does it hurt so much to be chosen? Because calling demands crushing. The anointing requires pressure. You can't carry light until you've been broken enough to contain it. Every chosen one bleeds before they bless. This is not punishment, it's preparation. God does not test what he doubts, he tests what he trusts. The greater the resistance, the greater the revelation. And even now, when the darkness seems louder than hope, your endurance is prophecy. You're still standing, you're still watching, you're still searching for the meaning behind the pain. That hunger, that relentless need for truth, is proof that heaven hasn't given up on you. There are days when you feel like your prayers bounce back unanswered, when the silence feels like a locked door. But silence is not absence. Silence is training. Heaven hides its loudest answers inside your stillest seasons. And this season, chosen one, is sacred silence. You're not being ignored. You're being instructed. Because before you fight with authority, you must first understand alignment. You cannot command darkness until you've confronted the shadows within. The war outside always mirrors the one inside. This is the paradox of the chosen. You must conquer yourself before you conquer anything else. Think about it. Why do you think the same battles keep circling back? Why do familiar patterns repeat, even in new faces and new seasons? It's not punishment, it's a mirror. Heaven keeps showing you what still needs healing. You've been asking for deliverance, but God is asking for discipline. You've been begging for signs, but heaven is demanding surrender. Because until you surrender, the same demons will find their way back through the same open doors. The pain you avoid is the portal to your power. The demon you fear is the doorway to your dominion. Every tear, every failure, every unanswered prayer, it's all part of your refinement. Let's go deeper. The demon assigned to you wasn't sent to destroy you. It was sent to reveal you. Heaven trusted you with a test that lesser souls couldn't survive. You were chosen not because you were the strongest, but because you were the most stubborn in spirit. You refused to die quietly. You refused to settle. And that refusal became your spiritual signature. Even hell knows it. That's why it keeps sending attacks shaped like your past. It's not creative, it's strategic. It knows what once broke you. But it's terrified that you've learned, because once you learn, you can't be deceived by the same pattern twice. And that's what's happening now. You're learning your language of warfare. The universe is teaching you how to translate pain into prophecy. Every chosen one reaches this point, the moment between running and rising. It's where faith becomes more than belief. It becomes decision. You either bow to fear or you burn with purpose. And the burning, though it hurts, is holy. You are standing in the forge right now. Every unanswered question, every delayed promise, every lonely night, it's heat, not punishment. It's purifying what cannot be carried into your next dimension. Don't curse the fire. Become it, because when you do, the demon that once hunted you will fear your flame. And here lies the greatest revelation of all. You didn't lose anything the fire took. You lost what could not stand, the heat of your evolution. Every loss was a pruning, not a punishment. Every heartbreak was a doorway disguised as destruction. You were never being broken down. You were being built from the inside out. This is what heaven means when it says, "You are the vessel." You were never meant to escape the storm. You were meant to embody it. The demon cannot destroy what has learned to burn without being consumed. Chosen one. This chapter of your life is not the end of your battle, it's the remembering of your purpose. You are remembering the contract your soul signed before the beginning of time. You are remembering that your destiny was written in light, long before darkness ever learned your name. And as you remember, your authority returns. When you stand in that truth, heaven doesn't whisper, it roars. You were never fighting for power. You were fighting to remember you already had it. So breathe, stand, awaken. You're not late. You're right on divine time, and what comes next will reveal why you were chosen. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign of your divine alignment. The chosen one. The battlefield has never been outside of you. It has always been within. The war you've been fighting isn't just against spirits that whisper through shadows, it's against the echoes that live inside your memory. The most dangerous demons are not the ones that scream. They're the ones that sound like comfort. They hide in patterns, habits, and emotions that pretend to protect you but secretly poison your peace. You've been looking for something dark, something monstrous, something obvious. But the truth is quieter. The demon assigned to you doesn't need to frighten you. It only needs to convince you that nothing is wrong. It comes wrapped in familiarity, disguised as your reflection, smiling through pain you've learned to ignore. This is how it works. It studies your silence. It memorizes your fears. It waits for your loneliness to open a door. And when you feel unseen, it whispers, "This is who you are." But chosen one, it's lying. That voice that says you're too broken, too unworthy, too late, it isn't yours. It's the residue of a spirit that's terrified you're about to remember your authority. The demon doesn't need to destroy you to win. It only needs to distract you from becoming yourself. Think about the patterns. Why do the same relationships keep reappearing in different faces? Why does the same temptation find new disguises? Why do your emotions return to the same place, no matter how far you run? Because until you confront the root, the fruit will always return. The demon doesn't care about your habits. It cares about your heart. And it knows that if it can occupy your emotions, it can silence your discernment. It doesn't need to chain your body. It only needs to cloud your clarity. Chosen one, not every war looks violent. Sometimes, warfare looks like exhaustion that has no reason. Sometimes, it feels like peace that's too quiet, too artificial. Sometimes, it feels like an emptiness that prayer seems to touch but never fill. These are not symptoms of weakness. They are signals. They mean the war has gone deeper, from your circumstances into your soul. Because this is the truth most avoid. Deliverance doesn't begin with casting something out. It begins with seeing it for what it truly is. You cannot kill what you still call normal. The demon inside you thrives on denial. It hides in phrases like, "I'm fine. It's not that deep. I can handle it." Michael, but suppression is not strength. It's slow surrender. The longer you avoid it, the deeper it roots itself. That anger that flares without reason, that loneliness that follows every victory, that sudden wave of doubt after moments of breakthrough, those are not coincidences. Those are coordinates. The spirit realm is pointing you toward the stronghold that must die. This is where most chosen ones fall. They confuse the pain of transformation with the comfort of bondage. They think the ache means they're losing, but the ache means they're shedding. Healing feels like breaking, because every lie you outgrow has to crack before truth can rise. You've prayed for clarity, but clarity often comes dressed as confrontation. You've asked for peace, but peace is born when false comfort dies. The demon will fight hardest when it knows exposure is near. That's why your dreams have become intense. That's why your emotions have felt unstable. That's why the same memory keeps resurfacing. You're close to freedom. The enemy doesn't waste energy on those who aren't awakening. It only attacks those who are beginning to remember their rank. And right now, the spirit realm can feel your awareness growing. You've started to see through people who wear masks. You've started to sense energy before words. You've started to discern between emotion and instruction. That's not paranoia. That's prophetic sight returning. But beware, the demon adapts. When it cannot control you through temptation, it will try to manipulate you through guilt. When it can't distract you through chaos, it will numb you through comfort. That is its most dangerous form piece, that isn't holy. Rest that isn't righteous. You must learn to identify the counterfeit, because not everything that calms you is from heaven. Some comfort is a cage. Some pleasure is a prison. And until you discern the difference, you will mistake bondage for blessing. Chosen one, this is where your authority begins, not in screaming prayers, but in silent awareness. The moment you see the pattern, the demon loses power. Recognition is revelation, and revelation is revolution. So here is your task. Stop running from the mirror. Face the version of you that still bleeds, the version that never healed, the version that made peace with pain because peace seemed safer than freedom. You must confront them not with condemnation, but with compassion, because healing doesn't happen through hatred. It happens through honesty. You are not your wounds. You are the warrior that survived them. And now, heaven is asking for your permission to finish the work. You were chosen not because you were perfect, but because you could perceive, and perception is your weapon. When you can name the demon, you can command it. When you can recognize the pattern, you can break it. When you can separate your voice from the whisper of fear, you can reclaim your authority. So stop asking, why me? Start declaring, it ends with me, because that's the truth. You are not just fighting for your freedom, you are ending a cycle that has haunted your bloodline for generations. The battle was personal because the breakthrough will be generational. The demon will try one last time to convince you that you're too weak, too late, too lost. But weakness is not disqualification, it's invitation. Heaven doesn't need your perfection, it needs your permission. And once you give it, once you speak it, once you decide, everything shifts. Not because the darkness disappears, but because it no longer dictates your direction. You don't run from the storm anymore. You walk through it as the storm itself. You are no longer the hunted. You are the revelation hell has feared. If this word finds your spirit, hit like and subscribe. The Chosen One. Before you can slay what hunts you, you must understand how it found you. Nothing in the spirit realm happens without permission. Darkness cannot enter without invitation, and every invitation begins as a wound. You were not targeted randomly. You were studied, traced, and tempted through pain that looked like ordinary life. This is how the demon entered, not with thunder, not with a roar, but with a whisper. It began early, long before you had language for faith or fear. You remember the silence of your childhood room, the one that felt too deep, too aware. You thought it was imagination, those nights you felt watched, those dreams that lingered after you woke. But that was the beginning. The enemy does not wait for adulthood. It plants seeds in innocence. When you were too young to fight, it used pain as a portal. Abandonment opened one. Rejection opened another. The silence after betrayal opened the widest of all. You didn't invite darkness, it entered through trauma. Because unhealed pain becomes an open gate. Chosen One, you must understand this truth. Pain is not neutral. Every wound speaks. And when that voice isn't silenced by healing, something else begins to answer it. The demon does not storm in. It studies the cracks. It waits for the moment you stop expecting rescue. It waits for the day you stop believing in comfort, because disbelief is the perfect doorway. That's when fear becomes familiarity. That's when sorrow becomes identity. And once the spirit convinces you that pain is permanent, it no longer needs chains. Your beliefs become the prison. Many of your earliest battles weren't against what you could see, but against what you accepted. You thought survival was strength, but survival without healing is submission in disguise. The spirit realm works through agreements. Every time you said, "I'll never trust again," every time you thought, "I'm just not enough," every time you decided, "It's safer to stay small," a silent contract was written in your soul. But contracts can be broken. Heaven never leaves you bound by what ignorance signed. Revelation is heaven's signature canceling the agreement. As you grew, curiosity became another open gate. You searched for meaning in the wrong places. You reached for answers in things that glowed but carried no light. You touched what felt harmless, symbols, energies, whispers from false sources. You didn't know you were trespassing into realms without armor. Exploration without discernment becomes invitation without protection. That's how the spirit world works. It honors access, and where there is access, there is attachment. You thought it was curiosity, but the enemy called it consent. Then came love, or what you thought was love, the connection that felt magnetic, intoxicating, unstoppable. But not all bonds are blessings. Some are assignments. Soul ties are the most subtle chains. You didn't just give someone your heart, you gave them spiritual access. And if their spirit carried darkness they never dealt with, that darkness found its way into you. That's why, after they left, you still felt haunted. It wasn't nostalgia. It was residue. The door you opened through affection became a highway for oppression. But, chosen one, listen closely. You can break what you didn't know you built. There is another layer. The one few talk about, generational entry. Some of your battles didn't start with you. They were inherited, passed through lineage, disguised as family patterns. Addiction, fear, poverty, anger, these aren't just habits. They're inheritances, spiritual DNA written long before you took your first breath. You were born into warfare because your bloodline carried unfinished business. The demon that followed you is ancient. It has survived generations by wearing new names. But it ends with you because heaven didn't send you to continue the cycle. It sent you to complete it. Still, be honest. Some doors you opened yourself. Seasons of rebellion, moments when obedience felt too heavy and escape seemed easier. You didn't mean to give access, but rebellion is still agreement. The enemy doesn't need your worship, just your neglect. Every time you ignored your intuition, every time you delayed your conviction, the door creaked wider. But grace is greater than entry. Repentance rewrites permission, and the bloodline battle that began before you will end with your obedience. Now, heaven is revealing every doorway not to shame you, but to arm you, because the same knowledge that exposes access becomes the weapon that closes it. Once you see it, you can shut it. Once you name it, you can nullify it. Once you confront it, it collapses. That's why your memory is awakening, why old pain is resurfacing, why names and places from years ago are stirring in your dreams. You're not being tormented, you're being trained. Every flashback is a key to a door that must be sealed. But closing the door is not emotional, it's spiritual. You can't cry your way free. You must command it. You must speak the truth that overrides the lie. You must declare with authority, the access ends here. Forgiveness closes the door of bitterness. Obedience shuts the gate of rebellion. Repentance seals the portal of pride. And once the door is closed, no demon can reopen what revelation has locked. This is not theory. It's law in the unseen realm. Chosen one, when you begin this process, expect resistance. The atmosphere around you may shift. Your sleep may stir. Your emotions may shake. Because the darkness that has occupied your soul for years will not leave quietly. But do not fear the noise, it's proof of eviction. The moment hell starts screaming, heaven starts celebrating. You're not losing your mind, you're reclaiming your territory. This is your moment of authority. Go back through your life, identify every open door, pain, relationships, choices, secrets. Name them, renounce them, release them, and as you do, light will start filling the rooms you didn't even know were dark. Your peace will no longer be borrowed, it will be built. And your freedom will no longer be conditional, it will be complete. Remember this truth. The door that let the demon in is the same door you will use to cast it out. Pain was the entrance, healing will be the exit. You are not a victim of what entered. You are the vessel heaven chose to end it. Write 333 inches the comments. It's a prophetic sign that every hidden doorway is closing. The chosen one, the demon that stalks you, fears you more than you will ever fear it. yet it hides that fear behind intimidation. It presses you with doubt, floods you with exhaustion, attacks you in moments of silence. It wants you to mistake its trembling for power. But the truth is this: the moment you awaken to who you truly are, its dominion collapses. Hell does not tremble at emotion, it trembles at revelation, because revelation is recognition, and recognition is authority. The enemy's only strategy is to keep you from seeing yourself, because the moment you see, you stand, and the moment you stand, it must bow. Chosen one, you must understand what your awakening truly means. When heaven anoints you, the spirit realm takes notice. Your battles are not random, they are records of recognition. Hell saw your name written in divine ink and reacted with fear. The moment you were marked, resistance was assigned, not because you were weak, but because you carried what could not be replicated spiritual authority. Every attack, every temptation, every night you cried thinking God was silent, those were confirmations, not contradictions. You are not under attack because you are cursed. You are under attack because you are crowned. You think the warfare means you've fallen out of favor, but it's the opposite. Warfare is the echo of heaven's endorsement. The demon would not waste time on someone irrelevant. It studies the ones who carry fire, the ones who wake atmospheres when they pray, the ones whose obedience sends tremors through hell. That's why it attacks your voice, because your voice carries vibration frequency that cuts through dimensions. When you speak truth, you pierce lies. When you command with faith, you break agreements forged in darkness. The demon doesn't fear your personality, it fears your prophetic alignment. You've noticed it, haven't you? The shift in the air when you pray, the sudden heaviness when you start fasting, the tension in conversations that used to feel safe, the resistance that rises every time you decide to be obedient. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. You are stirring the unseen. You are shaking structures that have stood for generations. And the darkness feels it. Every time you worship in silence, the atmosphere shifts. Every time you declare truth through tears, angels are deployed. Every time you stand when it would be easier to break, the entire realm of hell takes notice. You are not just a believer. You are a weapon. But the enemy's most cunning tactic is subtle. It makes you question your worth. If it can't destroy your calling, it will try to distort your confidence. It will use your past against you, reminding you of failures long forgiven. It will whisper, "Who do you think you are to command anything?" Yet, that is the irony, your authority was never earned. It was inherited. You don't fight for position, you fight from it. You don't pray for permission, you pray from inheritance. The same spirit that raised Christ from the grave lives in you. So when you speak, it's not echo, it's enforcement. When you stand, it's not defiance, it's dominion. Listen carefully. Demons don't fear titles. They fear alignment. They don't flee from noise. They flee from authority. You don't need to scream louder. You need to stand clearer. Your authority doesn't increase when you feel strong. It intensifies when you obey despite weakness. Because obedience is the language of power. The enemy doesn't understand tears, but it obeys authority. So even when you feel weary, even when your prayers seem dry, even when faith feels thin as air, keep commanding. The spirit realm doesn't respond to feelings. It responds to faith. You've been through storms that should have silenced you, losses that should have broken you, loneliness that should have hardened you, but you're still here. And that endurance has upgraded your rank. Every battle you've survived has increased your spiritual credibility. Heaven sees it. Hell respects it. Even the earth feels it. You are not where you were. You have risen in unseen authority. And though you can't measure it in the natural, the demons can. They know who you are. Even when you don't, that's why they targeted your mind. That's why they tried to isolate you. That's why people turned against you when you started growing. Because the enemy saw what you couldn't yet see, your awakening was near. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out in silence and command without applause. You were never called to blend in with those who fear darkness. You were sent to confront it until it submits. The same flame that frightens others is the light that frees them. You carry what they can't yet understand. A frequency of faith that rattles the unseen. So now the question remains, how will you wield it? You can't go back to hiding. You can't return to silence. The more you shrink, the stronger the shadows become. But the more you speak, the more they scatter. And here's the secret. Demons don't flee from perfection. They flee from persistence. They flee from the chosen one who refuses to quit. They fear your endurance, because endurance is prophecy in motion. Every step you take in obedience echoes in eternity. You've spent years thinking you were under constant attack, but the truth is, hell has been reacting to your presence. Your existence is disruption. Your awakening is warfare. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere recalibrates. When you pray, timelines shift. When you forgive, curses break. When you obey, strongholds collapse. You are the interference in hell's broadcast. You are the anomaly in darkness's design. And that's why it fears you, because your light cannot be duplicated, and your calling cannot be cancelled. Chosen one, this is the moment to remember who you are. Stop measuring yourself by emotion and start measuring by endurance. Every time you refused to quit was a declaration of war. Every time you chose love instead of bitterness was a spiritual victory. Every time you prayed while breaking was an earthquake in the unseen. You've already done more damage to hell's agenda than you realize. That's why it's panicking. That's why the warfare feels louder. The demon knows it's losing ground. So keep standing, keep speaking, keep shining. Because heaven didn't choose you to survive darkness. It chose you to command it. Chapter 6. The Arsenal of Light, the Chosen One. Every warrior must learn the sound of their own weapon. You have been fighting battles, unarmed, swinging emotion like a blade, praying from pain instead of power. But heaven never intended for you to fight from fear. It armed you with weapons that are not seen, yet they shake dimensions. This is where your real warfare begins, not with noise, but with knowledge. Weapon 1. The Word as fire. The Word is not a book. It's a frequency. Every verse you speak vibrates through the unseen, rewriting reality at the level of spirit. When you speak truth out loud, darkness loses its legal ground, because every lie the demon whispers is a counterfeit law, and truth is the gavel that ends its reign. Don't just read the word. Wield it. When fear rises, don't beg for peace. Declare it. When confusion whispers, command clarity. When anxiety tightens your chest, speak that the spirit of peace governs your mind. You are not repeating empty sentences. You are releasing legal decrees from heaven's courtroom. And the demon knows, the moment you speak with faith, the atmosphere must bow. Weapon 2. Worship as warfare. Worship is not music, it's movement. It shifts realms. When you worship in pain, heaven bends closer. Angels align to your frequency, and darkness begins to lose its breath. Because worship re-establishes order, it reminds creation who truly reigns. You've been taught that worship is what you do after victory, but the truth is, it creates victory. When you sing through tears, when you raise your hands through heartbreak, when you whisper thank you through confusion, hell screams, because every note is a declaration that the darkness failed to silence you. Remember, the demon doesn't fear your pain, it fears your praise in pain. Weapon 3. Fasting as fireproofing. When you fast, you starve what feeds the flesh and strengthen what fuels the spirit. Fasting breaks attachments that prayer alone cannot. It exposes cravings that have become chains and silences voices that shouldn't have authority. Fasting is not punishment, it's purification. It empties your vessel so glory can fill it. It makes you sensitive to what the world numbs. When your stomach aches, remember this: that ache is not weakness, it's warfare. Every hunger pang is a reminder that you're killing the appetite the demon used to control you. Weapon 4. Obedience as authority. Obedience is the loudest language in the spirit realm. Every time you obey a divine whisper, heaven records it as legislation. You don't have to understand every instruction, just execute it. Because obedience multiplies power faster than any ritual or prayer. Disobedience invites chaos, but obedience invites dominion. Even small acts of alignment, turning off what pollutes your spirit, forgiving when it feels unfair, walking away when ego screams to stay those moments rewire realms. The demon trembles when you obey without explanation, because it knows you've stopped being predictable, and unpredictable warriors are unstoppable. Weapon 5. Silence as strategy. Silence is not surrender. It's sharpening. The loudest victories are often forged in quiet places. When God hides you, don't fight to be seen. When He silences you, don't rush to speak. Silence is where the divine teaches precision. Because not every revelation deserves an audience. Some are meant to mature in solitude. Hell studies your words, waiting for emotional reactions. But when you master silence, You strip the enemy of data. You are not being ignored, you are being incubated. Weapon 6. Forgiveness as freedom. Forgiveness is not approval of what was done to you, it's eviction of what pain left behind. Unforgiveness is a portal. It anchors the past into your present and gives the demon a place to live rent-free in your mind. When you release, you reclaim. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable, because a heart free of bitterness cannot be manipulated. Forgiveness closes the oldest doorway the enemy ever used, offense. And once it's sealed, peace rushes in like a flood. Weapon 7. Declaration as dominion. There is power in your mouth that you've barely begun to understand. Every time you speak in faith, your words travel faster than light, cutting through timelines and transforming atmospheres. Your declarations are not wishes, they are orders. You are heaven's ambassador, not a beggar for blessings. When you speak with conviction, creation listens. When you decree with authority, demons retreat. This is why you've been silenced, because the enemy fears your sound. But now that you know, you will not speak casually again. Every word is a weapon, every phrase, a flame. So guard your tongue, it's the sword of your spirit. Weapon 8. Love as light. Love is not soft, it's seismic. It dismantles principalities that power cannot. Because love is the one energy the enemy cannot counterfeit. You don't conquer darkness by hating it, you outshine it. When you choose love over retaliation, forgiveness over vengeance, compassion over indifference, you shift entire frequencies. Love is not weakness, it's warfare. At its purest, hell cannot comprehend it, because hell cannot imitate it. Chosen one, these weapons were always yours. They've been dormant, waiting for your awareness. You've prayed for deliverance, but heaven has been waiting for you to wield. You don't need new power, you need renewed perception. The demon's greatest fear is not that you'll fight, it's that you'll remember how to fight spiritually. Because once you do, nothing can touch you. You won't just survive warfare, you'll govern it. You won't just endure the storm, you'll become it. The moment you read this, your weapons awaken. Your word becomes sharper. Your worship becomes louder. Your authority becomes unshakable. You are not who you were when this story began. You have evolved from survivor to strategist, from vessel to victor. Hell hoped you'd never reach this chapter, but now that you have, it knows its time is running out. If you feel this confirmation, write 333 in the comments. It's the number of divine completion, the seal that you are armed, awakened, and ready. Because in the next chapter, you will not just carry the light, you will command it. And the world will finally see what happens when a chosen one steps fully into power. Certainly. Here is the final English version of Chapter 6, The Arsenal of Light, written in full cinematic, motivational, and spiritually charged style for a YouTube narrative script, following all your stylistic and structural requirements.